Yo, Headliner Nation, you may be getting ready to make your biggest mistake of the fantasy season and you don't even know it. And no, it has nothing to do with drafting wide receivers early. In fact, this video is to help you if you're looking for value at the running back position late, or if you've decided that you are wanting to invest in wide receivers early. The mistake you're making is which one of the running backs you're investing in as your RB1 if you're waiting to pick one until the middle rounds. And I've got a few pieces of criteria that we're gonna run through to determine which one of these running backs will end up being the best bet as your RB1. And even if you don't plan on deploying a wide receiver heavy draft strategy, this video will still help you find some great value later in your draft. So to kick things off, let's take a look at the running backs going from RB13 to RB24 and where their current ADP lies. In the 40 range right now, we've got Rachaad White, James Cook, and Joe Mixon. Kenneth Walker and Alvin Kamara both are going in the 50 range. Ramondre Stevenson, Aaron Jones, and David Montgomery aren't going until the 60s. Then Najee Harris, James Conner, Zamir White, and DeAndre Swift are rounding us out in the 70s. Now, this video isn't about sitting here and debating which one of these running backs I think should be going over the others. That's neither here nor there. We're just trying to figure out which one of these running backs could end up being best suited as our RB1 if we're taking our running back a little bit later. And all of these running backs are going in the 4th round or later as well. So more than likely, you're looking at these guys after you have drafted 2 wide receivers, or maybe even 3. Maybe you took a look at a tight end or a quarterback as well. And again, I don't love that strategy. I personally would like to have my running backs early and often, but a lot of you out there have changed the game plan, and a lot of you feel like going wide receiver heavy is what you want to do. I want to make sure that I'm providing content to you, even if I don't 100% agree with the strategy that you are using. And maybe you're locked in taking running backs early. This video will still be good for you to see a different perspective and what your team may look like if you decided to go with the wide receiver a little bit earlier. All right, so the first piece of criteria that I'm gonna use to whittle down this running back list is supporting cast. And the reason that I'm looking at supporting cast is because I don't want to take a running back this late that has to do it all on his own. I want to take a running back that could end up having a good amount of volume, but a guy that could have some decent upside as well, because the players around him are very, very good and will help keep the pressure off. This is going to give us the best balance of floor plus upside. You want to have a really good balance at your RB1 position. You don't want to be guessing every single week what in the world you're going to get from your top running back. So here are the running backs that I believe have the best supporting cast. First up, Rachaad White. He's got Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. That is more than enough to help keep the pressure off. Joe Mixon. This Houston offense looks spectacular. You've got Stephon Diggs, Nico Collins, and Tank Dell around him, plus Dalton Schultz. Kenneth Walker, he's got 3 really good wide receivers out in the perimeter every single game. DK Metcalf, Jackson Smith-Njigba, and Tyler Lockett. Some good deep threats there as well. Aaron Jones. I'm going to go ahead and give the nod to Aaron Jones making the cut here because of Justin Jefferson. But you still have Jordan Addison, and at some point this season, you'll have TJ Hockenson as well. That's a pretty great group of players around you. David Montgomery. The Lions offense may be one of the best in all of football, with Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, Sam Laporta, and even though they have Jahmyr Gibbs around him still, that doesn't necessarily hurt David Montgomery all that much. James Conner is seeing a nice little bump in the players around him as well. Obviously, Marvin Harrison Jr. is the lead name here, but you still have Trey McBride to go along with him. 2 really good offensive targets. And then DeAndre Swift. The Bears are loaded at wide receiver. They drafted Rome Odunze, they traded for Keenan Allen, and they already had DJ Moore. Plus, Cole Kmet is no slouch at the tight end position. Like I mentioned, all of these guys have plenty of players around them where they don't have to be eyed as the focal point of the offense every single game. This is going to allow them the opportunity to maybe see some bigger holes on the offensive line. Maybe the defense won't collapse on them so much. They won't see 8 in the box as much as either. Again, it gives them a good balance because their efficiency could be better, which gives them a higher ceiling. And because they're the lead backs on their team, they could end up seeing just enough volume to be very safe as well. All right, the next criteria that we need to use now is going to be best quarterback and best offensive structure. We know that at the quarterback position, you need to be good enough to keep the pressure off the run game. Not everybody is Breece Hall. Not everybody can survive with Zach Wilson as their starting quarterback. Some of these guys being taken a little bit later don't have some of those elite traits. So we need a really good quarterback and we need a good offensive structure around them to help give them the upside and the floor that they deserve. The running backs that are going to make this cut for me are going to be Rachaad White, Joe Mixon, Kenneth Walker, David Montgomery, and James Conner. Unfortunately, I have to leave Aaron Jones off the list. I don't know who the starting quarterback in Minnesota is going to be. Will they be better than what they had last year after Kirk Cousins went down? I do believe so, but right now, we don't know. And we do know that a rookie quarterback, as good as J.J. McCarthy may end up being, is going to have some struggles as well. Aaron Jones as my RB1 is a little bit too risky, not even knowing the quarterback situation. And I also have to leave DeAndre Swift off as well. For as good as Caleb Williams could end up being, once again, he's a rookie quarterback. Do we really want to rely on a running back with a rookie at the quarterback position as our RB1 this late in the draft? I just can't do it. We cannot afford to make mistakes at this point. Baker Mayfield was pretty darn good last season. And yeah, there is the opportunity that he won't keep it up this year. But until I see it, I'm going to believe that he'll be at least as good as he was last season, which would be great for Rachaad White. Joe Mixon. Listen, CJ Stroud is one of the best up-and-coming quarterbacks that you can find. One of the best rookie seasons ever for a quarterback and is in a really, really good offense. Kenneth Walker. I decided to leave him in here, and he was very borderline for me. Geno Smith 2 years ago would be perfect to keep Kenneth Walker going. Geno Smith from last year would not be good enough. So while I could have ended up axing him, I know that if we get the Geno Smith from 2 years ago, Kenneth Walker is going to end up being just fine. So I decided to move him on to the next round, given the upside that he has based on how efficient he can be. David Montgomery. Jared Goff may be one of the most underappreciated quarterbacks in the NFL right now. He does the job in Detroit so well. He's not super flashy, and from a fantasy standpoint, yeah, he's not a quarterback one, but that's not what I'm looking for here. I'm just looking for a quarterback and an offense that can go ahead and give our running backs as much upside as possible. Jared Goff and the Lions do exactly that. Now, James Conner has Kyler Murray, and I know there's going to be some Murray haters out there that don't feel like James Conner deserved to move on based on Kyler Murray. But Kyler Murray was pretty darn good after he came back last season, and now he has Marvin Harrison Jr. and an increased rapport with Trey McBride after last season as well. I think Kyler Murray is still good enough to get the job done. And also, Kyler Murray can do it with his legs. That helps keep the pressure off James Conner as well. All right, our list still isn't small enough. We need to whittle it down a little bit more. The next piece of criteria that I want to use is going to be health. Now, all running backs carry the risk of being injured, and the running back position has more risk than any other position in football. But from a perspective of where have players been in the past in terms of their injuries moving forward, that's where we have to start to determine which one of these players can end up being a risk more than some of the others this season. So my 3 running backs that are moving on now will be Rachaad White, Joe Mixon, and David Montgomery. Unfortunately, I gotta leave Kenneth Walker behind. For as good as he is, he just has some injury concerns that once again could end up popping up this season. And really the same thing goes for James Conner. Just like Kenneth Walker, when he's healthy and he's on the field, he's got RB1 potential. But unfortunately, they both just miss a few too many games for me to want to buy into them right now. Now, this is not to say that these guys couldn't be your RB2s. If you take a running back a little bit earlier, Kenneth Walker, heck yeah, sign me up for him as my RB2 every single day. But as our RB1 this late in the draft, it just doesn't have that warm and fuzzy feeling on the inside, given how many injuries he's dealt with the last couple of years. We need to be a little bit safer. All right, the last piece of criteria that I am going to use. Now, I talked about floor and ceiling already a little bit, but we need to come back to it again, because earlier I did mention that with our RB1, we want to find a decent enough ceiling every single week. However, they need to have a really nice floor for us. Again, we are trying to draft our RB1 later in the draft. That becomes increasingly difficult when you're not picking guys like Christian McCaffrey, Bijan Robinson, Breece Hall, guys that are taking at the very beginning of the draft who have really nice floors to go with really high upsides as well. So while the upside is great, we need to find the running backs that give us the best floor as well, because we can't be worrying about our RB1 every single week. The two running backs that are moving on to the final round are Joe Mixon and David Montgomery. Sorry, Rachaad White, I just couldn't let you stay in this final round. You had a fantastic season last year, but you were one of the worst running backs in all of football based on your efficiency. And the offensive coordinator that gave you all of those touches last season, that provided you with a safe floor, David Canales, is now gone and moved on to Carolina. Are you going to get the same amount of touches this season? That's where we start to have a question, because your efficiency is so bad that your floor will start to drop if the touches are not there. For the other two guys moving on, I don't see an issue with that happening. All right, Joe Mixon and David Montgomery are our final two here in the last round, but Headliner Nation, I'm gonna let you all decide exactly who is going to win this battle. And you're gonna do it by leaving a comment down below with either hashtag Team Mixon or hashtag Team Monty. And I'm gonna pick one of you to win a free draft guide. Our 2024 Fantasy Football Draft Guide is already live. It has been since March, and it's got a ton of content already in it and continuing to update until week 1 of the regular season. And it's only $21.99. The best deal that you're gonna find in the fantasy industry today. All you need to do is go to the description of this video, after the video is done, of course. Click on the link, head on over to our website, and order yours right now. But you know what? If this video can get 750 likes, I'm gonna pick someone from the comments that comments either hashtag Team Mixon or hashtag Team Monty to win a draft guide for free. So let's go ahead and compare these two running backs real quick by taking a look at the potential team that you could draft around them based on their current ADP. And since Joe Mixon is going earlier, we'll take a look at him first. Joe Mixon's ADP of 47.8 is gonna put him in the 4th round. So when we're taking a look at the 3 rounds before him, we're focusing on 2 wide receivers and then a tight end potentially to go along with them. You could end up going 3 wide receivers if you want, but more than likely, if you're taking Joe Mixon in the 4th round, right around his ADP of 47.8, you're gonna have an early 1st round pick. So you would have a shot at a guy like Tyreek Hill or even CeeDee Lamb. Then when you wrap around to the back half of the 2nd round, you could end up taking a shot at Chris Olave, Drake London, or Nico Collins to be the wide receiver 2 on your team. I love Nico Collins, but in redraft leagues, I just can't do it. Best ball? Yeah, I would be on board with that. But if not, I would be investing in redraft leagues in Drake London or Chris Olave here. Now, wrapping back around here, we're going to go with Sam Laporta or Mike Evans. It really just depends on how your draft ends up playing out. If you take wide receivers the first 2 rounds, Sam Laporta in the 3rd is probably your best bet. Now, if you end up going with maybe a wide receiver and then, I don't know, maybe you draft a quarterback super early, super flex, 2 quarterback, whatever it may end up being, if you were to draft like a quarterback in the first couple of rounds, then probably Mike Evans is a lot better bet in the 3rd round. And then of course, Joe Mixon is who would you be targeting in the 4th round. Overall, maybe not a bad team. I don't know if I'm in love with it, but David Montgomery is going to give us the opportunity to do something way more different because his ADP is putting him back in the 6th round. David Montgomery as your RB1 would be pushing you into the territory of a true zero RB draft. And more than likely, if you're drafting David Montgomery at his current ADP of 68 overall, you're going to have a draft spot right in the middle of the first round, which would give you a shot at Amon-Ra St. Brown or Justin Jefferson. Those would likely be your best two choices to start. Round 2 is basically going to be about the same because you're going to be in the middle of a round. You're still going to have an opportunity to grab Chris Olave, Drake London, or Nico Collins right in the middle of the second. Now, in the middle of the third, you're going to end up missing out on Sam Laporta because he's going earlier in the third. Now, Mike Evans would still be a decent bet here for you, but now Travis Kelce comes into play. If you want your tight end 1 in the third round with this draft strategy, you go with Travis Kelce. Now, the fourth round is going to allow us to do whatever the opposite of the third round was. So in the third round, if you drafted Mike Evans, you can take Trey McBride as your tight end in the fourth. If you decided to go with Travis Kelce in the third, then Amari Cooper could be your next wide receiver in the fourth. In the fifth round, this is where we would end up going with our first quarterback because CJ Stroud and Anthony Richardson are both going right in the middle of the fifth round with their current ADP. So once again, you're looking at a true zero RB strategy right now where you're taking 2 or 3 wide receivers. So you're filling your 2 starter spots, potentially third if it starts 3 wide receivers, or you flex a wide receiver. You're filling your tight end position and you're filling your quarterback position as well. Now in the 6th round, that is where David Montgomery would come into play since his ADP is right in the middle of the 6th. But the question is, are you really that comfortable with David Montgomery being your RB1? I love Joe Mixon. I love David Montgomery. I think they both are fantastic values this season, and I think both of them have an opportunity to outperform their ADP quite easily. Joe Mixon to me has a little bit more upside. That's why he's going more into the 4th round, where David Montgomery has a little bit of a better floor because Jahmyr Gibbs takes some of that upside away from him. But I love David Montgomery. I love Joe Mixon. I would love them both as my RB2 though, or maybe even my RB3 so I can flex them. Not so sure. I would want to take him as my RB1 and then try to deal with getting an RB2 and depth behind them as well with everybody left over. But once again, just because I don't agree with doing this strategy doesn't mean that I shouldn't provide some content to you that allows you to make the decision that you feel is in your best interest. So once again, make sure you comment down below, Team Monty or Team Mixon. Which one of these running backs will end up winning the battle of the best late round RB1 for your team? And if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button, turn on the bell notification so anytime we drop new content, you'll know about it right away. And if you appreciate the content, then you gotta hit the thumbs up for us. And YouTube is probably gonna recommend one of our past videos to you right now. Make sure you check it out if you missed it. Headliner Nation, peace out, stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll catch you all in the next episode of the Fantasy Headliners.